Hi, this is Robert with a report from Libertasia.com. Today's report is going to be about the NYPD releasing a toxic gas on subway travelers. So let's get straight to it. NYPD will release colorless, odorless, benign gas in the subway to test attacks. This is the Business Insider, and the Business Insider basically states that the gas presents no health or environmental hazard. This attack was done in conjunction with the Brookhaven National Laboratory, and they also state the same thing. Perfluorocarbon tracer gases present no health or environmental hazard. But in fact, if you do minimal research, you will find that they present a substantial health and environmental hazard to anyone or anything that's exposed to them. As a generalization, perfluorocarbons are a fertility-reducing substance. That goes along with other fertility-reducing substances that we've seen recently that come from GMO crops made by Monsanto, and also substances that are added to vaccinations which reduce fertility. And interestingly, PFCs, or not interestingly, but unfortunately, PFCs have a long half-life. So if they want to claim it's just a trace gas, but it increases your trace exposure, and then the substance has a long half-life where it resides in your body and causes the negative health effects. So it is a concern. In any case, the press release statement is false. It presents a health hazard, and also it presents an environmental hazard. We're at Environment Canada right now, and it's a Class B environmental hazard. It doesn't matter. You can look up the site if you want to see it, but Schedule 1 Class B environmental hazard. So it may constitute a danger to the environment on which life depends. So, but if you look at the press release, no health or environmental hazard. So again, the press release is factually false. I believe this is criminally factually false, and I'm one who argues that these people need to be brought to justice. All the criminals that seem to, with complete unaccountability, be engaging in consistent crimes, be it the NSA eavesdropping, which violates the Fourth Amendment, or be it the IRS targeting conservative groups. We see recently in the United States criminal actions being perpetrated, and there seems to be zero accountability. It just like spins off in the news on other unrelated stories, like they go on and on about Edward Snowden or something, without getting to the real, the Fourth Amendment was violated. Who was accountable for that? And then, what's going to happen to them? That seems to be gone from our reasoning, and whether or not it's going to even happen or not, whether there's going to be any criminal liability or not, we need to just follow the proper reasoning path. There's a crime committed. The criminals need to be held accountable. And some people would say, well, what's the crime? Well, I think releasing a hazardous gas on the population, that would be a crime. Okay, so let's just keep going forward here. See, here's somebody talking about whether or not we consent, and that's right, we didn't consent. But people that are concerned about these things, we need to get to the point. This was a crime. It was perpetrated by criminals. They lied about the gas that was being released. They released a toxic environmental hazard and health hazard gas on passengers in a subway train. They are criminals. They need to be brought to justice. Okay, it's that simple. And why are we? What was the purpose of this? To study, how toxic gases might travel throughout the subway, as though our government is protecting us from terrorism. I simply want to point out that it's governments that have killed 238 million people or more in the last 100 years, and that the jihadi type terrorism is just absolutely insignificant from a number standpoint relative to that. You're more likely to be killed by your furniture than a jihadi terrorist. Now, when the government moves to start gassing trains, then yeah, the odds might go up. And in fact, governments have been involved in false flag. That may be a conspiracy theory, but it's also factual, as in there's certain aspects of it that are not opinion. You can go to Wikipedia and look up Operation Northwoods, Operation Gladio, and find that there has been significant acts of terror which were indeed planned by the government and or perpetrated by the government. And I like this little page right here because it talks about the anthrax attack. It points out that the anthrax was produced in a U.S. bioweapons facility, and that the White House staff began taking the anti-anthrax medicine before the attacks occurred. And now that I'm not counting that as like a fact that it was indeed perpetrated by the government, but there are some factual false flag attacks that were. And most of the killing, again, of the last 100 years has been perpetrated by the government. So I'm not so sure we should be looking to the government to protect us from gas attacks here, especially when they're releasing a toxic gas on basically unsuspecting passengers, because passengers didn't know it was toxic gas, or I'm sure they would not have consented to it. And then now I simply want to point out, and my real motivation for wanting to do this video is that I think a lot of people that are concerned about these sorts of things, there's so many things going on. We don't realize when certain lines have been crossed. And this one, gassing subway passengers with toxic gas, that's like a line that's been crossed. And another aspect of this line that's been crossed is that no one's concerned. No one's doing anything about it. There's not going to be any accountability on it. The media is not going to investigate it. If you go to your workplace to try to talk about it, they'll just say you're crazy. So in that sense, we're crossing some really mega lines there. So I'll just point the two lines out. One is the fact that the government's engaged in a toxic gas attack against the population, and two, that the population is doing nothing about it. That's quite significant. So I feel it's my duty to get this video up so that I don't count towards one of those people that isn't doing anything about it. Because when there is the second coming, I want to be a general in God's army. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.